It began without warning. Under a moonless sky, American stealth bombers struck deep into Iran, targeting nuclear facilities. The explosions lit up the night, reducing years of ambition to rubble. Washington's statement spoke of preemption and imminent threats, but the world only heard war. In Tehran, grief turned to rage. Crowds demanded vengeance. Iran's leaders vowed retribution, calling the attack barbaric and promising America would pay. The supreme leader, cold and resolute, declared their blood would be avenged. Diplomatic channels snapped shut, news channels flashed with devastation, markets crashed, world leaders scrambled, fearing this was just the beginning. Moscow and Beijing condemned the strike, calling it reckless and illegal. The world polarized instantly, alliances hardening. Ordinary people felt dread settle in. The threat of global conflict was no longer abstract. Parents wondered what kind of world their children would inherit. The hope for peace was shattered in a single night. The attack was not just on Iran, but on the world's fragile sense of security. The world held its breath, waiting for Iran's reply. The board was overturned. The game had changed. War had begun. Iran's response was swift and brutal. Drones and missiles struck American bases and fleets across the Middle East. An American aircraft carrier burned in the Gulf. America was no longer untouchable. The world's alliances snapped into action. Russia declared support for Iran, launching bombers at Western supply lines. The conflict went global overnight. The European Union invoked its mutual defense clause, joining the fight. NATO and Russia faced off across Europe's borders. Troops mobilized, air defenses bristled, and the continent braced for war. China, seizing the moment, formally allied with Russia and Iran. Chinese fleets surged into contested waters, threatening global supply chains. The world fractured into two armed camps. No middle ground remained. The Middle East, Europe, and East Asia became battlefronts. The dominoes of war fell faster and faster. The dream of peace was gone, replaced by a new, terrifying reality. The world was now locked in a struggle for survival. Every nation was forced to choose a side. The age of global conflict had returned. The Middle East became the crucible of World War III. Deserts and seas turned to fire as American and Iranian forces clashed. U.S. technology met Iran's home field advantage and Russian support. The Strait of Hormuz was mined and blockaded, choking global oil supplies. Oil prices soared, triggering a worldwide crisis. Naval battles raged. Wrecked ships burned along the coast. On land, special forces hunted missile launchers in brutal mountain warfare. Urban combat turned cities into deadly mazes. Civilians suffered immense casualties. Hypersonic missiles and AI-guided drones redefined warfare. Speed, autonomy, and lethality ruled. Traditional defenses crumbled under relentless, high-tech assault. The humanitarian crisis deepened as homes became battlegrounds. The desert sands ran red, a testament to modern war's efficiency. Every engagement was faster, deadlier, and more chaotic than ever before. The world watched in horror as the region bled. The new era of warfare had arrived. As the Middle East burned, war erupted in Eastern Europe. Russian armored divisions stormed the Baltics, aiming for Kaliningrad and testing NATO's resolve. Baltic and Polish forces fought fiercely, but were outgunned. The plains of Poland saw the largest tank battles since World War II. NATO jets clashed with Russian fighters in chaotic dogfights. Towns were leveled, artillery thundered, and the scale was immense. In the Atlantic, Russian submarines hunted NATO convoys, echoing the battles of the past. Anti-submarine warfare became a desperate race to keep Europe supplied. Cities across Europe faced missile strikes. Millions fled westward. Air raid sirens and bomb shelters returned to daily life. The continent's peace was shattered. Refugees flooded across borders. The dream of a united Europe died in the mud and fire of the Eastern Front. The war was total, land, sea, and air. Europe was tearing itself apart. The world's old wounds had reopened. With the West distracted, China struck Taiwan. Missiles rained down. An amphibious invasion began. Taiwan's defenders fought bravely, but the odds were overwhelming. The U.S. 7th Fleet rushed to intervene, clashing with China's navy. Massive naval battles erupted in the South and Philippine seas. Carrier-killer missiles and high-tech warfare dominated the Pacific. The conflict spread. U.S. bases in Japan and Guam were attacked. Japan joined the fight. The Korean peninsula teetered on the brink. East Asia's cities became front lines, the region's economy collapsed. Australia and regional allies joined the coalition, turning the Pacific into a war zone. Trade networks unraveled, the world's supply chains broke. The Pacific was now a battleground of survival and technology. The dragon had awakened, scorching the region. The war spanned continents and oceans. The world was truly at war. Beyond the visible carnage, a silent war raged in cyberspace. Massive cyber attacks crippled power grids, financial systems, and communications. AI algorithms controlled drone swarms and missile defenses, fighting at machine speed. Offensive and defensive AIs battled in a digital arms race. Propaganda and disinformation flooded social media, blurring truth and fiction. Deepfakes and bots sowed chaos and division. The war for hearts and minds was fought with algorithms. In space, satellites were targeted and destroyed, creating deadly debris fields. The Kessler syndrome crippled global communications and navigation. The world was thrown into a technological dark age. The digital battlefield was as decisive as any front. Every device became a weapon or a target. The future of warfare was invisible, relentless, and everywhere. As losses mounted, the nuclear shadow returned. Russia, desperate in Europe, threatened to use all means necessary. The world teetered on the brink of nuclear annihilation. A tactical nuclear weapon was used near Kaliningrad, vaporizing thousands. The nuclear taboo was broken. Panic swept the globe. The UN met in emergency session, but diplomacy failed. Leaders faced an impossible choice: retaliate or show restraint. For 72 hours, humanity held its breath. Cities emptied as people fled or hid in terror. The Cold War's drills returned, but comfort was gone. The peace of deterrence had shattered. The fate of billions hung on every decision. The world stood at the edge of the abyss. The war came home to everyone. The global economy collapsed, supply chains vanished, food, medicine, and basic goods became scarce. The internet and digital economy disappeared in a wave of cyber attacks. Billions struggled for survival as society unraveled. Refugees flooded across continents. Camps overflowed. Cities went dark. Water and power failed, and lawlessness spread. Environmental catastrophe followed. Burning oil fields, radioactive fallout, poisoned seas. The war scarred the planet perhaps forever. Amid chaos, communities tried to help each other, but fear and loss dominated. Governments could no longer provide security. The world became a patchwork of fortified towns and desperate wanderers. Civilization itself was on the brink. The world of 2026 stands on a razor's edge. The initial strike has spiraled into a global inferno. Technology once meant for progress now fuels destruction. The war is total. Land, sea, air, cyberspace, and orbit. Alliances have led to mutual ruin. Millions have died for scorched earth. The nuclear taboo is broken. Escalation seems endless. The world's fragility is exposed. Peace was always precarious. Now humanity faces a collapsed economy, a poisoned planet, and a lost future. Will leaders pull back, or will one more miscalculation end it all? In this story, there are no winners, only survival, and what comes after.